Okay, this is day 2 of Chapter 6, Public Opinion and Political Action. Today we kind of ended up, and I don't think I covered enough on random sampling, so I just want to kind of reiterate with random sampling, things that we're trying to do there is we're trying to look at the overall opinions of the American public on a variety of issues so that politicians can formulate ideas of how to vote in a particular issue. And when we see random sampling, one of the keys there is that it really should operate on that principle that everyone should have an equal probability of being selected. And I'd mentioned it yesterday, but just want to kind of reiterate about a concern about the reliability of telephone surveys. And probably the biggest factor in whether or not a poll conducted is valid is there's an increased number of cell phones that are being used, which are generally unlisted. And so unless they are on a particular call list, you're going to get less of a reliability by calling people's home numbers anymore to determine people's opinions. Okay, next term is bandwagon. Okay, bandwagon simply means that voters will support a political candidate merely because they see others doing it. That's the bandwagon effect. I'm doing this because, or I'm voting this way because my friends are voting this way, or this is the in thing to do. I'm going to vote this particular way or have this particular view. That's pretty simple what the bandwagon effect is. I'm going to jump on because everybody else is doing it. Okay, next term, the paradox of mass politics. And what's referred to as the paradox of mass politics is that overall, our American political system works fairly well despite Americans' lack of political knowledge. So our political system works fairly well despite Americans' lack of political knowledge. Generally, a lot of time people are making their decisions based upon short little sound bites that they hear on television or what other people are talking about, and they may not really have a true grasp of an issue. And so, but our system by and large does work, even though it's shut down right now because they haven't passed a bill, but that's still it working. Okay, an exit poll. An exit poll is simply a procedure of conducting a random. Well, let me start over here. Exit poll. It's a public opinion survey used by major media pollsters to predict electoral winners with speed and precision. So, in a sense, what they are doing is that asking every 10th person that comes out of a polling place, hey, how did you vote? And going by that random sampling, they can start to predict how a particular area is going to vote for a particular candidate. That's why on election night, when they say exit polls are showing so and so's ahead, what they've done is that they have uh, staked out places around a particular state or around the particular country, and they ask every 10th person how you're voting, and that will generally give them a good idea of how a state is going to vote. Now, one thing that public opinion has shown is that over or recent decades, let's say since the 1960s, 1960, American trust in government has decreased. And that's certainly prevalent today, where both sides, whether or not you can trust a Democrat or trust a Republican, overall, I think the American public does not have a very good trust of our government. All right, political ideology. Political ideology is a coherent set of beliefs about politics, public policy, and public purpose, which help gives meaning to political events. And I'm reading that on page 183. 183. A coherent set of beliefs about politics, public policy, and public purpose, which helps give meaning to political events. A lot of times we can see our political ideology is shaped by our parents, but it certainly gives us a clear set of values and beliefs about public policy. You know, that political ideology. How do you view the world, whether it's from conservative lenses or from liberal lenses? Each side has a different perspective, and just because somebody has a different ideology does not mean their ideology is different. Now, some of the differences that we can see between liberals and conservatives. Here we're moving down to that next term, liberals and conservatives. We can generally see that liberals generally think when it comes to military spending that we should spend less on the military, where conservatives generally think that we should have a strong military, strong national defense, and will tend to vote for more spending for the military. So they are more likely to support maintaining a higher level of military strength. When it comes to taxes, generally the general rule of thumb is that liberals will seek to tax the rich more. So liberals will tend to tax the rich more, where the conservatives tend to tax the rich less. But along that, I don't want to say that they are just large or rich people shouldn't pay taxes. A lot of times, what you see is that they try to present that in trying to to maintain a free market. And a lot of times they feel that conservatives feel that you cannot maintain a free market if you're constantly taxing the rich. Okay, When it comes to crime and punishment towards liberals and Democrats, we see that liberals generally believe that you can solve problems that cause crime through different programs. Hey, if we spend more money on education, you're going to be able to keep people out of poverty. If they're out of poverty, they're not going to be committing crimes. If you spend money for whatever program, name the program that could stop crime. Uh, that's what liberals tend to view, is that you can generally solve the problems that cause crime, and generally that's going to come through spending money, but generally believe that you can solve problems that cause crimes. Where, on the other hand, conservatives believe that we should stop coddling criminals. Coddling criminals, meaning stop giving them breaks. We should lock them up, throw away the key, give them the maximum sentence because we are going to punish them for committing crimes. Another thing that we see a difference between liberals and conservatives is that liberals tend to support affirmative action, where should give minorities an extra little bump if that is a determining factor, where conservatives tend to oppose affirmative action. Conservatives feel that affirmative action should be based more on a person's ability, and race should not or gender should not play any part in determining whether or not somebody should be qualified for or to obtain a position. Other things that we can see difference between liberals and conservatives on the issue of abortion. Liberals tend to vote pro-choice, where they are more accepting of women having abortions, where conservatives tend to vote more of a right to life movement. Right to life meaning that abortion should not happen. So if we just kind of recap, looking from a conservative standpoint, conservatives tend to, on taxes, they tend to see that it should be lower. Don't tax. When it comes to the military, increase that spending. When it comes to the economy, should have that free market solutions. Government shouldn't interfere in the marketplace. And certainly that right to the right to life. Conservatives are right to life. They want to do away with abortion. All right. When it comes to the gender gap, I'm going to read from page 185. 185. The gender gap refers to the regular pattern in which women are more likely to support Democratic candidates, in part because they tend to be less conservative than men and more likely to support spending on social services and to oppose higher levels of military spending. Once again, I'm just reading from page 185. Now, typically what we've seen throughout history is that women have been discriminated against by men, and that gender gap. Now, that's not to say that there are not women, and some of you can be Republicans here that don't vote Republican. Some of there are women that are Republican, but generally, what it's talking about the gender gap is that women tend to vote Democrat when it comes to social issues that they may not. Um, they may vote more Democrat when it comes to certain social issues compared to what certain men might think. Now, that's not to say that you do not have conservative women, because you certainly do have that. Okay, just a few last things that really didn't kind of fit into any other category. Know that groups with political clout, those people that are connected, uh, generally tend to be more conservative. So the more political clout you have, uh, these groups tend to be more conservative. Something else that I didn't mention when it comes to the Census Bureau, obviously we talked about a census taking place every 10 years, but according to the U.S. Census Bureau, it estimates that by the middle of the 21st century, whites will comprise less than half of the majority of U.S. population. So the U.S. Census Bureau estimates that by the middle of the 21st century, whites will comprise less than half of the majority of the U.S. population. So certainly as minority populations grow, you're going to have a shift in public opinion. Policies are going to change. Things will change over time. Change is not necessarily a bad thing, and we just need to be able to understand and accept it. One last thing that to get down, when it comes down to when we were talking about sampling error, um, go ahead and put this back up under sampling error. Please get down that the larger a sample is, the smaller the sampling error. So if you got, um, let's say, if you got gonna sample uh, the school's population, let's just take it from that. If we tend to go around and ask a majority of the people in each class what their opinion is, that sampling error is going to be pretty low. But if we go around and we only ask maybe one, maybe two of the good kids in each class what their opinion of something is, you're going to get a totally different opinion than if you asked the kids that tend to get in trouble or tend to have lower grades, or pick some sort of other thing there. All right, that concludes day 2 of our notes. That also concludes chapter 6. We will review on Monday, test on Tuesday. That is Tuesday the 8th, October 8th, we're going to test.